All right, welcome to another episode of Crime Pays with Bonnie Does. And today we're going to talk about one of the reasons in creating a native plant garden and killing your fucking lawn, all that shit. Now, of course, one of the reasons that gets touted most of the time is that it's, water conservation, it's better for the environment, blah, 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 all that shit. But I don't do it because it's a fucking political act. I could give a shit. I think we're headed for a long, slow decline and eventual crash anyway. That aside, I do it because I learn more about the plants that grow around me. I turn my yard into a fucking classroom. I turn it into a little research plot where I can observe these plants throughout all their life stages, throughout the entire year. I can view their phenology, their seasonality, what insects pollinate them, what birds and other critters disperse the fruits, etc. And it makes me a more observant person. It makes me more astute, more keen to the goings-on of the living skin of the fucking planet I live on, which is kind of important, all right, rather than just being some mouth-breathing dolt who's not paying attention to any of this shit. Let's take this plant behind me, Senegalia berlandii, is a good example of this. So this is obviously a legume. As you can see, it's got those pinnate leaves and these little powder puff flowers. They're technically inflorescences composed of many flowers. Now this thing not only smells incredible, but it's covered in bees, all right? At least it was. It's just the fog just lifted, so it's just starting to warm up here. The pollinators aren't quite active yet, but the other day it was covered in bees. So you can see there's a couple up there. So I'll come out here with a camera and photograph all the different shit that comes to visit these flowers. All right, a lot of it, are just feral European honeybees, but then you get a lot of the really cool pollinators too, and I'll upload them to iNaturalist, create a little lag so I can reference them later, learn what species they are, and then I just by default have a list of all the cool native pollinators that evolved in this landscape, that evolved with this plant. Some of them are specialists, some of them have narrow distributions, etc. All right, used to never be interested in bugs, all right, until I started paying more attention to plants and seeing bugs all over the place. See, look at those styles poking out of those those powdered poof, those what look like hairs are just the stamens, and then the longer parts are the styles. The female part of the flower, which, pollen grain lands on it, and then that ends up pollinating the plant and turning into those little bean pods. See that little bean pod was inside. It was about 1/500th the size of that at one point, and it was inside one of those powder puff flowers. And then the cool thing too is I'll take that bean pod when it's mature, get a bunch of seeds, and grow a shit ton more of these plants that I can then force off onto my friends and others. If you're in the United States, probably where you live, there's a good chance that, like me, you live in a place that's been turned into an automobile slum, a culture slum, a retail slum. There's not many opportunities for enjoying the life around you because it's all been demolished. So what do? Bring home to your yard. You can see I got a little St. Francis of Assisi statue. Now, I'm not religious at all, but I did steal this statue because it's got a good place in the yard, and he's hanging out with the Thilo cactus, and I was brought up Catholic. At least I abandoned it when I was about 10 or 11. But that said, every Italian American or Mexican American yard has to have a religious icon or statue of some sort in the yard, regardless of whether the owners are actually religious. So anyway, you can see what we got going on here. A number of cool plants. Okay, a seed-grown Manfreda longiflora, a member of the agave family that looks like a little succulent octopus with spiny leaves. Got a Homolocephala texensis. Got a prickly pear that I just took one of those pads from I think it was the Arboretum or one of the botanic gardens in Oakland. They don't mind, it's fine. You're just taking a little cutting, you're not hurting it. But I don't recommend doing that, and I can't legally condone it on the channel. That said, there's Thilo cactus. You can see I got my tweezers out because I was just pollinating these plants. This plant's an obligate outcrosser, like many cacti. You can see that guy already got hit, and that stigma is closing up. See that? Look at all that juicy. You got a big juicy load in there. Look, there's a lizard turd. All right, got to make sure the lizards are happy. I got 3 or 4 different species of lizards in my yard. My daughter and I love playing with them. These are species we otherwise wouldn't have access to. Got Stenosirius eruca, not native. It's only native to a small coastal strip along the Pacific Ocean in Baja California Sur, but it seems to be doing fine here. And Cistrocactus shiri, another cool seed-grown cactus, and you can see this one's actually got fruits. Right here we also got ashy dogweed. Okay, this is Thymophila tephroleukea. Right, you can see it's obviously pretty popular among the pollinators. We got this guy right here. Going to town on it. See that nice little butterfly? This is a really cool plant. Look at how fuzzy it is and blue. You could see it's obviously adapted for a hot, dry environment, which is what it likes. It grows only in 1 or 2 counties in the entire world, I believe. Actually, there might be a small population in Mexico too, but it's been adapted to grow on those that Jackson Group sandstone. It's a geologic formation from a weathered Eocene sands. Now over here, got a number of other cool cacti. Now these guys aren't native, but they're from the same continent, and plants from the same continent tend to not be too invasive. The bad invasives tend to come from, you know, barriers like oceans or the equator that have kept ecosystems isolated from each other for very long amounts of time, all right? Especially, you know, you start crossing the Atlantic or the Pacific, those ecosystems on either side of those oceans have been separated for a very long amount of time, and so that's why, you know, some of our worst invasives come from Australia or Europe, and some of Europe and Australia's worst invasives come from North America. All right, so every plant has a context. You take it out of that context and, you know, just ignore that 40 million, 80 million years of evolution that it's had removed from the other plants and its invading ecosystem, and you end up in trouble. Anyway, you can see we got a Echinocereus poselgeri. That was a rescue from the border wall building, the demolition of habitat that happened. So that thing's getting ready to flower. Eventually, when we get the thorn scrub sanctuary, we're going to be planting that one back out, if not growing new seedlings from the seed that I harvest from this plant and planting those out. Wonderful population of Mammillaria hyderi. Those are rescues as well. You can see they're all flowering, and when those white flowers are done, because every flower, if it's pollinated, does produce a fruit, it'll have little red chili peppers that you know, poke out of those areoles and then have tons of tiny ass seeds in there. Some of the tiniest seeds of any cactus species, almost like powder. And I'll be growing a shit ton more of this plant and forcing them on friends, planting them out in our restoration project, which you could still donate to, etc. Right here we have a beautiful horse crippler going off. All right, Homolocephala textensis, formerly in the genus Echinocactus. You can see it's just, look at those laciniate petals. Look at that, like plumose petals. Got that pink stigma in the middle. All right, looking like a little outstretched 7-fingered hand, and then you got those stamens right there surrounding it. All right, this thing, I'm going to save the pollen since I don't have another one flowering at the same time. I think I'll keep I don't think I need to freeze that pollen. If it's only a few days, I could just dry it out, because pollen is actually dry. It doesn't contain water. The anthers and the filaments do contain water, and so those can rupture if you freeze them. Pollen grains can dry out, and they'll be totally fine. They'll keep probably for a couple days. Best to freeze them if it's going to be any longer. But anyway, there you go. This right here is Echinocactus platyacanthus from the Nuevo Leon all the way down into Oaxaca. Loves limestone environments and can get upwards of 8 feet tall on 100-year-old plants. This will have to be moved at some point, probably not for another 5 years, but yeah, that's seed grown. I started that guy from seed a few years ago. It didn't start really growing till I moved to a hotter environment. This right here is Stenocereus gummosus, the galloping cactus, grown from a seed that I took out of a fruit that I purchased at a roadside stand in Baja. You can see it's taken off now. One of my favorite cactus species. That's an agave from my friend Jeremy Spath, who runs Hidden Agave Nursery, which is a fucking great nursery. Check him out. He's over there. I think where is he? Escondido or so? I always confuse Escondido, Encinitas, all those places. But he's over there. Another Mam hyderi seedling I grew. You can see they give it a little shade when it's young. Right here is Stenocereus huastecana, which is very commonly planted here. It's actually native 100 to 200 miles south of the border region in South Texas, but it's a great fucking plant. Came through the freeze absolutely fine. It only froze for 2 or 3 hours in the morning, but regardless, came through fine. I got Encilia californica, a little piece of where I spent the last 20 years of my life. That's doing fine too. This is right here is the Texas Palo Verde, Parkinsonia texana, which is one of my favorite plants. This thing, man, when this thing is going off, when this plant is going off, it's covered in yellow blooms. The whole thing, I mean, it's like half of the frame would be just covered in yellow blooms right now. It's amazing. See those flower buds developing right there. When this thing goes off, oh my God, you could smell it from 10, 15 feet away. Big yellow flowers. When I'm feeling a little sick and twisted and, you know, maybe a little masochistic, I'll go outside, you know, right at dawn or dusk when the mosquitoes are really bad with this electric tennis racket, this bug zapper. And I will just, I'll let them come to me. I'll use myself as bait, hit the switch, hold that button down, and then just swat at them. Look at that. Look at that. Zap them. Oh shit, look at that bee fly. Is that a bee fly? Where'd he go? Oh yeah, there he is. You see him over there? Oh, that's fucking great. That's one of the ones I got a photo of, put it on INAT, log it, and then you can read all about it. There we go. Manahot walkeri, another rare plant grown from, this was actually a cutting that a friend gave me. And this is a Modelea species from the Texas sand sheet. It probably needs a little more sun. I'll probably have to, prune this stuff up. You get some like electric shears, all right, essential tool when you're doing gardening like this. Prune that up. I spend so much time out here. It's fucking nice. It soothes me, keeps me out of the news, prevents me from, driving my car off a cliff or attempting to murder anybody. Very pleasant, all right? Way better than a cocktail. Crested Mammillaria hyderi. This is a cool one. This is a really, I don't think anybody's growing this guy, this little, just the seeds had a minute getting started. Erythrostemon caudatum, all right? Really cool plant. Likes to grow in sand, though. It's not liking the fine, silty clays of Hidalgo County so much. I thought there was a lizard turd. It's just a woodchip. Man, some of these lizards can produce epic shits. It's actually pretty incredible. This guy's pretty cool. This is the Texas almond, all right? I grew these all in the same pot, and I was too afraid to separate them because it's such a rare plant. So I just left them in there, and then I'll just thin them out as they grow. They can all compete with each other, whatever. I probably could have stood to separate them and it would have been fine. But again, this is a rare plant from the sand sheet. I almost wonder if it's not going to get enough sun, but in a month or two, the sun will be a little bit higher in the sky at a different angle, and so they'll be getting blasted. Right here, we got an organ pipe that somebody gave me, Stenocereus. Oh God, what is the name of it? I forget. Thurberite, that's right. Named after a dude. Pretty stupid. Anyway, it was grown in a greenhouse for the last 5 or 10 years, so it doesn't have as dense of a farina, that sun protective waxy coating that cacti get, as I would like, but that'll accumulate as the apical meristem grows more, and the new tissue will have the appropriate farina that correlates to this latitude and this level of sun exposure. Really excited about this guy. Look, Salvia bellata flora. Again, 3 individuals, didn't want to separate them, probably could have, but just didn't care. Separated 2 or 3 more. All right, planted them elsewhere in the yard, but this is one of the best. It's a shrubby sage, that shrubby mealy blue sage that gets to about, I don't know, what, fucking 4 or 5 feet tall. All right, like a nice woody shrub that smells incredible and has really cool little blue flowers. Big banger among the pollinators. Now, I could have grown this in a pot for a little bit longer, but I like to get shit in the ground. I think it's a lot better to just get stuff in the ground. I don't like keeping shit in pots forever, and also where I live, it's just too hot. A gallon pot of soil can dry out in an hour when it's 105 degrees outside, if not more. Yeah, I planted a jojoba just for shits and giggles on seed that I brought back from Arizona. Look at it, the Texas spiny lizard. These little bastards, God, they're adorable. They really are. They're always, lizards, reptiles always look so fucking skeptic, especially these phrynosomatids. Another rare one, Tetranurus turneri. A friend who works at a botanic garden gave me this one. It's an obligate outcrosser, so I'm not going to get seed, but really cool, rare composite. And then right here, we got Jatropha cathartica with that bulbous stem, which you almost never see exposed at ground level. All right, people do that when they grow these things. You can see it's they grow these in pots. A lot of those collector guys are really really obsessed with this one, but you could see it's already got new growth popping out. Should probably give it some water a little bit. They tend to like it a little bit more wet. Epic plant, tiny pink flowers when it goes off. Really cool looking, weird looking fucking plant. Over here is Asclepias prostrata in the ground, thriving. Would love to get seed off of it. I have a friend who's growing it in where is South Carolina, North Carolina, one of the damn Carolinas, and he's gotten plenty of seed. Not sure. I think he's just, I don't even think he has to self-pollinate them. The wasps and bees just do it. A golden barrel cactus. I've had that for years. I forget where I got it, but I was torturing it in a pot. I finally threw it in the ground. Over there's a little saguaro I grew from seed. That thing's probably 5 years old. Looking at that leaf shape and those stellate trichomes, all right, those flannel-looking trichomes, you could tell this is a malva. It's in the, not a malva, Malvaceae, a malvoid. It's in the cotton and hibiscus family Malvaceae. This is Mexamalva philippes with those tiny purple flowers, one of my favorite plants from the thorn scrub. And this is actually 2 plants planted together. So I'll get good seed off that in just a little bit. This guy right here is the largest cactus species in the world, the largest growing cactus species in the world, Pachyscereus weberi. If you live in a place where this is hardy, they can take like a couple hours when they're large of below freezing temperatures in the winter, in the morning, but they can't take, hard, persistent freezes. Anyway, if you live in a spot like Mesa, Arizona, South Texas borderlands, wherever, where this plant is hardy, you gotta grow it. This will eventually get upwards of, I don't know, 30 feet tall with 140 stems. You know, if you give it 100, 200 years, in 30 years it'll probably be, I don't know, taller than my house with multiple stems. Anyway, Puebla and Oaxaca State, Mexico. And you can see that new growth coming out, those betalain pigments, they haven't hardened off yet. Those spines are still alive. That's still, looks like it's still living tissue, and then as this thing grows, the tissue will die and they'll turn into just these hard-ass spines coming out of those areoles. Look at those fuzzy areoles, of course, too. What a great species. It's got a blue color when it's fully grown. It's due to that farina, again, that waxy coating on cactus epidermal tissue. I'm going to clear it up with the St. Francis, okay? It was ethically taken from someone who was not appreciating it and no longer cared for it. So this was not, you know, and first off, it wasn't an individual, okay? It was an entity. It was a group entity. So don't worry about it, and he's much happier here. Agave Weberi, that tree in the background I'm slowly trying to kill. It's Quercus virginiana. They plant them around here. They're technically native, or at least an ecotype is native to the sand sheet further north of that Quercus, the Texas sand sheet, but that's not the one. But it'll die eventually. Anyway, right here we got the toothpick cactus from Argentina, Stetsonia corin. Corine? How the fuck you pronounce it? Anyway, it was cool. I had to move that one. That's why it's crooked, because it was growing in a spot where it's going to get shaded out. But when I moved it, I noticed something that is, of course, anyone who's grown large columnar cactus can tell you, is that the roots don't go deep down. They just go laterally. So it only went to about, I don't know, 5 inches depth below the soil maybe, and then they went out about 16 or 18 inches, those roots. So I tried to put them back that way. Because when it rains in these really dry environments, the rain is generally not going to percolate down. It's going to just, you know, stay within the first few inches of the soil surface. This is one of our most incredibly important plants, and it's humid in South Texas. It's kind of like where the Gulf Coast transitioned to the desert, but this thing grows even further west in very dry places in the Chihuahua Desert, and that's probably an ecotype. You don't want to be planting extremely drought-adapted ecotypes here, nor do you want to be planting extremely humid ecotypes in a native plant garden further west. You could probably get away with it, but some of them would die. But anyway, skeleton leaf goldeneye is a common name for this. This is Sydnea tenuifolia. All right, it's got kind of, you can see it's got like a whitish abaxial surface. You got a little bit of those hairs, or it's a mixture of hairs and wax. It looks like, smells kind of good. And of course, it's important as hell for the pollinators, and especially when it's hot as balls here in the summer. This thing just takes the sun and cools the landscape, all right? Every one of those leaves has those microscopic gas pores in it, the stomata, and that gives us the swamp cooler effect, transpirational cooling. As those stomata take in CO2 and let out water vapor, they cool the landscape. So that's just another reason why having a lawn is fucking idiotic, especially you live in a hot place. It just it lets the ground heat up so much. You put native plant cover and shrubs, a couple trees over it, your surrounding area is going to be much cooler than, say, a parking lot in a fucking retail center or a place where there's just concrete or lawn exposed to the sun. Anyway, I got tons more shit that I could show you, but you know, I gotta go, and I like keeping the videos short because, you know, this generation tends to lose their attention span after about 3 minutes. I mean, really, all of us do. These phones are really fucking with our minds. Anyway, you could see the point that I'm getting at here, okay? And for you, you know, for those of you in northern latitudes, you know, like Chicago area, where the growing season doesn't really even start till May or June, now you got something to think about, all right? The best way to learn about the plants that grow around you and learn about botany in general, all right, you got to do a little bit of reading, but the main thing you got to do is just get outside too. You can't, it's not all just reading. You have to actually have the shit in front of you and be able to touch it, look at it, smell it, all right, you know, feel the fucking breeze in your hair, you know, get the dirty looks from the squares that live around you and aren't ready to kill their lawn yet. That's all part of learning botany, right? Put it in your front yard, bring it home, turn your fucking yard into a research station, a classroom, etc., where you can observe these things, right? Plant all the cool native plants that are around you. If you don't know about a certain species, you want to learn more, especially if it's rare, it's a rare native plant, go find it, source it, plant it in your yard, and observe what it does, what it likes, what it doesn't like. If it dies on you, so what? Just go get another one, right? And then try to figure out why it died. All right, did you shock it? Did it not like the soil? Was it the wrong place, etc. Learning about this shit makes you a more conscious and even humble person. It will improve your quality of life, all right? And it's a great way to just get you the fuck outside so you're not staring at the fucking screen watching Netflix or some dumb shit. Their quality's really gone down. I'm not much of a TV guy, but Netflix has really gone down. Or staring at your phone into the void watching these dipshits argue with each other about shit that they have no control over and isn't going to affect them in the long run anyway. Go outside and learn about this shit, all right? Don't touch grass, touch native plants, but you get the point. Anyway, that's all I got. Have a good rest of your day. Go fuck yourself. Bye.